Many people on the island of Sodor are familiar with the Scottish twin engines, Donald and Douglas. They are some of the hardest working engines on the island. Together, there isn't much that the twins aren't capable of. The island was in the throes of a very busy summer. One evening, the Fat Controller came to see the engines in the sheds. Good day, engines. There's an extra long goods train that needs to be taken straight to Vicarstown tomorrow. Donald and Douglas, I'm ordering you two to take it there. The twins grinned at each other. We'll have that train in Vicarstown before you can even say confusion and delay. The other engines looked at each other. Though the twins were strong, they'd seen the sizes of the goods trains that the twins had taken before. If this truly was an extra long goods train, as the Fat Controller had said, it wouldn't be easy to pull, even for engines like the twins. There's one more thing, said the Fat Controller. I've got an engine ready and waiting at Wellsworth Station to bank you two up Gordon's Hill. The engines were puzzled. But I thought Edward would be busy on his branch line tomorrow, said Henry. He is, said the Fat Controller. This is a different engine, and one who will be staying to help with the summer rush. The engines were excited. A new engine meant that the strain on their buffers would be lessened. The next day, Donald and Douglas arrived at the yard. Sitting there was a train longer than any they'd ever seen before. Douglas was worried. Do you think we've bitten off more than we can chew with this one? Donald seemed unfazed. We can't even bite. Besides, we've dealt with many harder things before. Remember that diesel? Shush, Donny. I take your point though. Let's get this train moving. Soon the twins were snorting and panting along the main line. It certainly wasn't easy to pull the train, but the twins were making excellent time so far. Before long, they came to Edward Station. They scoured the yard as they passed, but couldn't see any new engine. The twins were perplexed, but focused on building up as much speed and steam as possible for Gordon's Hill. Donald felt the gradient beneath his wheels gradually beginning to rise, and Douglas did too. They felt the weight of their train here. The twins worked even harder, but the train only seemed to get slower and slower. Before long, the twins were barely crawling, and Douglas was beginning to tire. Suddenly, they heard someone buffer up behind them, and almost immediately felt the strain on their couplers loosen. They pulled harder and looked back, not seeing anything. Suddenly, an unfamiliar voice spoke out. "Keep going, you two," it said. "I'll be right here." All three engines fell silent then, and focused all of their effort onto beating the gradient. With a sigh of relief, the twins crested the hill. From there, the rest of their train followed. The twins never got the name of their banker, but they did just barely catch sight of the number on his tender, 13. They smiled at each other. It seemed like their mystery banker was here to stay, and not just for the summer rush. That afternoon, when the twins returned to the sheds for a rest, they found an engine waiting there. They didn't know who he was, but they definitely recognized the number on his tender. "So you're our mystery banker," they said cheerfully. The engine smiled. "Barry, the rescue engine." "Well, ye certainly came to our rescue back there," the twins chuckled. Barry smiled warmly. "Well, it's great to meet you two," he said. Well, formally anyway. Just then, Barry got called away to take a branch line passenger train. As he left, Douglas shouted out, "Hold on! Why are ye called the rescue engine?" he asked. Barry chuckled benignly. "That's a story best saved for another day. Tonight, perhaps." The twins smiled and moved off too, to top up on coal and water and to get some rest. News of Barry's arrival soon spread across the railway, and he was given a proper Sudrian welcome by the engines in the shed that night. He thanked them and smiled. "It's great to have a family again," he chuckled. "It's great to see you again too," Thomas smiled. The twins were shocked. "You never told us you'd met Barry before," said Douglas. "Believe it or not," replied Edward, "yes, we have. He was one of the engines who the Fat Controller got on loan, back when we had that locomotive crisis. Henry, Gordon, Thomas and I saw him quite frequently." Barry laughed. "Indeed they did. I remember growing quite close with Thomas in particular." Thomas laughed too. "I remember. It was you who inspired me to play that trick on Gordon." "Well," said Barry, "I certainly didn't do it for a laugh. But you have to admit, looking back on that now, it is rather funny." All the engines laughed. Then, Douglas remembered his earlier question. "So, why are ye called the rescue engine?" Barry smiled. "Well, it wasn't exactly any one event that dubbed me the rescue engine," he replied. "I was just the most commonly available for operations like that." He paused. "There is one event, however, that after which I noticed myself being called the rescue engine a lot more," he said. "It happened right here on Sodor." He looked at the Scots. "However," he said with a mischievous grin, "it's getting a tad late, and we'd best get some sleep." The Scots were flabbergasted. "Ah, fine. But you've got to promise to tell us tomorrow." Barry laughed. "All right then, I will. Tomorrow." And with that, the engines drifted off to sleep.